So the finals is a very unique shooter compared to most of the shooters I've covered on this channel in the past, and there are plenty of mistakes that can get you in trouble if you're making them consistently. So today we're going over some of the biggest mistakes to avoid in the finals. Now the first one on the list is something that I actually ran into a lot when I first started playing the game, having played a lot of games like Battlefield and Warzone over the last few years, and this one is simply ego challenging. Now if you don't know what ego challenging is, it is essentially getting into an engagement where you probably shouldn't, but you kind of think that you can handle it. You think that maybe, oh, well, I'm better than that player, so I'm going to win the gunfight. And like I said, in games like Battlefield or in Warzone, a lot of the time that can work out for you. If you are literally just better than the opponent, then you can often win those gunfights. And oftentimes ego challenging is actually a really good method, because obviously if you are better than the player, you can kind of catch them off guard and engage in a gunfight when they're probably not expecting it, and therefore you can actually win because of that. Now in this game, it is quite the opposite. You do not want to be ego challenging. The exception probably being if you are a heavy and it's against any of the other classes, for example. But also when I'm talking about ego challenging, there are actually two different forms that this can kind of come in. And the first one is almost to do with what I just mentioned, that is engaging in the wrong gunfight depending on your class. For example, if you are playing as the light class and you come across even a medium, but most likely a heavy, you probably shouldn't engage in that gunfight if they're looking at you and they know that you're there, because obviously even if they're not as good as you, they're probably going to win that gunfight. The heavy has 350 health, and as a light class you have 150. So that is pretty much the prime example of what an ego challenge can be. Now it does sound very obvious. A lot of people will say obviously you shouldn't get into those gunfights, and on paper, yes, it is very obvious, yet I see a lot of people doing it. And to be honest, I have had to really learn to do that myself, or I should say learn to not do it, because oftentimes I'll be playing the light class and I'll run up to a heavy and just think, you know what, I think I can beat this guy, and it turns out most of the time I absolutely cannot. Now the other form of ego challenging can kind of come in the form of just not waiting for your teammates to push that objective with you. If there is an enemy team sitting on the objective, for example, and you know it's getting down to the wire and you really need to take control of the cash out, a lot of times I see a lot of people jumping in there and just thinking, you know what, I'm going to kill the whole enemy team myself and take over. That is not going to work 99% of the time. Obviously, if you're really good, or if you just come up against a bot team, then that can happen. But for the most part, you want to make sure you are waiting to push with your teammates. A 3v3 is obviously a lot more likely to be won than a 1v3. Now, next on the list, we have something that I do also see a lot of people doing wrong, and this is essentially choosing the wrong loadouts. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean choosing the wrong loadout as in, oh, you're using the wrong gun, you should be using exactly this gun and exactly this loadout. You can pretty much do well with almost anything in this game if you are good enough at the game, but what I'm getting at is mostly in regards to your teammates. So for example, if your two other teammates are running a melee weapon like a sword, and then the other one is running a sniper, that would mean that both of your teammates are light class, and they're obviously running a melee weapon and a sniper. That would mean it is probably not ideal for you to also pick the light class and then also use a sniper, for example. That's going to mean your team is a triple light team with two snipers and a melee weapon. I'm going to call it right now, you're probably not going to win many games running that loadout. Obviously, it can seem unfair if you have to base your own playstyle and the class that you choose around your teammates. A lot of the time, it doesn't really matter. A lot of people will run good loadouts, for example, but if you do notice that your teammates are running a little bit more of an obscure loadout, then it is often best to not just be stubborn and go with what you prefer to use. It might be worth switching to, for example, the heavy class with a bit more of a team-based loadout that can, I guess, complement your teammates setup. So this one is essentially just making sure that you look at what your teammates are running before the game starts. Sometimes you do unfortunately have to take a bullet for the team and switch up your loadout. It can be unfair, but it is definitely better than just picking your favorite loadout and then getting absolutely slapped all game long. Now the next one is kind of similar, I guess, to the last one, and this is to do with your team composition. It's not so much about specifically which class you need to choose and anything like that. It is just the fact that, in my opinion, you must have at least one heavy and one medium in your team. Otherwise, you simply have no chance of winning against any teams that are even remotely good. Now, you can be lucky and come across, you know, other teams that are just not very good, and you could be running all light class and you could still win that game. It's not like I'm saying it's impossible, but if you do come across any teams that are even remotely good at the game and you don't have at least one heavy and at least one medium, then I honestly think that is next to impossible to win at those games. Now, the reason for that is you do need a heavy for pretty much tanking a bunch of damage. They take so much damage just having a higher health pool, but then also having the shield in terms of the mesh shield and the dome shield to help protect you as well if you are playing the medium, for example. And the other side of it is that the heavy class does just have a really good loadout. They've got good weapons to send a lot of firepower down range. They've got good explosives and stuff like that in the RPG. And essentially, I just think you need a heavy to pretty much be the tank for your team. Otherwise, it is going to be a hell of a lot harder to win games. Now, I also mentioned the medium there. The reason I think you need at least one medium is because of the healing beam. Being able to heal your teammates is absolutely clutch, and especially when it comes to tournaments and ranked tournaments where you obviously need to stay alive as much as possible because you don't have unlimited respawns in those modes. It is essentially, I would say, the most important element of your team. You have to have someone that is healing, and obviously with the medium class, you also get the defibs, which is going to be very clutch for reviving teammates, which, like I just mentioned, is equally as important because, as I mentioned, you do not have unlimited respawns. Once you have at least one heavy and one medium in your team, I do think from there you can pretty much run whatever. You can still, use a light class and be very effective with it. You could also run the double heavy, and then obviously you've got 2 tanks on your team, or you could run the double medium and have 2 people healing a single tank, and that is obviously going to help as well. So you must have at least one heavy and one medium, in my opinion. Otherwise, you are pretty much never going to win when it comes to those ranked tournaments. Now, before we go any further, if you guys are new to the channel and you are enjoying this video so far, be sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on those notifications. There are plenty more videos coming on the finals, so make sure you don't miss out. Now, the next thing on the list is actually focusing on the wrong enemy team depending on which mode and stuff you're playing. What you want to do is you want to set your enemy team colors to on in the settings. I believe it is the very first setting when you simply just open the main page of the settings, and this is going to allow you to know which team is which rather than just showing all enemies in the same color. Now, let's just say that the purple team is about to win and you see the orange team going for the steal. In a lot of situations, instincts will tell you to just kind of take them out and try and steal it for yourself. At the end of the day, we all want to win, so if you see enemies near the objective, it is just natural to try and shoot them and take them out on your own. But in reality, what you should be doing is actually letting them steal if it benefits your team. And like I said, it obviously depends on the mode and the situation. But from there, if they then steal it, that's going to stop the purple team from winning, and then you can always try and steal it after that, because then even if you do fail, you can still win due to the orange team stealing it from the purple team. It just depends on the situation of every single game. So it is down to just situational awareness and understanding the rules of the mode. But at the end of the day, if you see one team who is going to steal the objective and it actually benefits you, don't try and kill them and then steal it off them, because obviously that helps you too. You want to pretty much have the safety of you almost being on their team for a second and being a 4v3, if that makes sense, against the purple team. It can very much benefit you in a lot of situations. Now, last but not least, I do see this issue a lot, and unfortunately a lot of the time it is the people on my team when I'm playing with randoms, and this is the fact that people often don't protect the objectives well enough. Now, I see a lot of people starting the cash out, for example, and then kind of just defending without using all of their gadgets and everything at their disposal. Instead, they'll just kind of sit there and patrol that area with their weapon, which obviously you still want to be doing, but in the meantime, you want to be making the most of placing down your mines, placing goo in front of doorways, for example, C4 even on the floor below to try and actually blow the floor up if someone's stealing it. There are a million ways to try and defend objectives as well as you can, and like I said, I do actually see a lot of people not really doing this. They almost plant the objective and then almost just welcome people to come and get into gunfights with them, and simply if you lose your gunfights, then the enemy team steals that objective every single time. So the best thing to do is kind of have a bit of a fallback, like I said, mines, C4, stuff like that, and then from there obviously you can still patrol the area with your weapon and try and take out the enemies that way. But at least if you take a bunch of damage, for example, you can kind of run away, try to hide, and then when they go for the steal, that's when you can blow up the floor with the C4, or obviously your mines can put them off and stuff like that. So make sure you're doing that. You definitely want to use everything at your disposal when it comes to protecting those objectives. But anyway, guys, those are some of the most common mistakes that I see when I am playing the finals, mostly when it comes to playing with randoms. I'm keen to hear your thoughts. Let me know of any other common mistakes you guys can think of, and I can always do a follow-up to this one as well. But with that being said, thank you all very much for watching. You guys have a great day, and I'll see you all out there in the arena.